I'm Kristen Oaks-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. Well, despite recent rains, every parish in Louisiana is experiencing a lack of moisture. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, for April 16th, the state ranges from abnormally dry to D3 extreme drought. TWILA's Avery Davidson shows us what that means for hay production and how it could affect winter forage.
Jared Pugh is cutting hay near Cooter Point in Franklin Parish. It's an area he would not normally cut in April. Then again, with cracks in the ground like this, it's not a normal April.
I've never seen it crack in April. Never. It's just the first time. So that's got me a little spooked, and I think it's got everybody a little spooked. A lot of our, the people that make a lot of hay, kind of like we do, they're all in the same boat. We better get what we can while we can.
Pugh is spooked because his pastures have been in drought for months.
I think we're 17 or so inches behind where we normally are this time of year. We've been in D3 drought since February.
The wettest state in the lower 48, and 90% of it is in some form of drought.
Jay Grimes is the state climatologist with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. He's also the director of the Office of State Climatology at LSU. He says this map from the latest U.S. Drought Monitor paints a pretty bleak picture for agriculture, even if regular rains return.
Problem is, if we head into summer with moisture shortages, especially at depth, even if the crops start to get going, as those roots go deeper, they're not going to find the moisture anyway. So that still results in stunted growth. Pastures across North Louisiana in general, you're lucky if you call them fair. They're really kind of poor. And when you get to the ponds, many of those ponds are bone dry. Rivers, bayous up there, and in fact across much of the state, are flowing at base level. Now, you might say, well, that means they're flowing. Yeah, sure, but this is the time of year where we're supposed to be running well above normal in terms of an annual average, not at base flow.
Pugh says because of the current drought, he's not likely to get a second cutting of hay this year. But he looks at the bigger picture, which includes neighboring states like Texas.
We may be in D3 here, but in Central Texas, they've been in D3. And those are the guys that kind of drive the hay market. So when I have brokers that are already calling me saying, hey man, we're gonna need 2,000 to 3,000 bales, and it's April, that call normally comes in July. So that tells me that the feed yards are behind, everybody in Central Texas is behind, and they did ship out a pile of hay to those wildfire areas. So, the hay market is one thing, the cattle market is gonna be another thing. If we have another round of sell-offs like we did in 23, then, cattle prices could go up again. I mean, there's a lot of factors that can go into that, but, I look to see that happen.
And that could mean even higher beef prices at the grocery store. In Franklin Parish, I'm Avery Davidson for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
State climatologist Jay Grimes says even if Louisiana sees normal rainfall in May, it may not be enough to get parts of the state out of drought. With Easter recess over, lawmakers are back in Washington with renewed optimism for a new farm bill this year. Senate Agriculture Chairman John Bozeman says work on the bill is moving quickly, with a markup expected soon. The House Agriculture Committee already passed its version in March, and a full House vote could come as early as this month. But challenges remain. The House bill includes controversial provisions on animal welfare standards and pesticide liability, while Democrats are raising concerns over SNAP funding and a lack of progress in the Senate. Still, lawmakers on both sides say they're pushing to move the farm bill forward. Well, trees are Louisiana's biggest commodity, with forestry pulling in about $3.5 billion each year. But for forestry landowners, there's not much help when a disaster comes. As TWILA's Josh Meeks explains, a new bill moving through Congress hopes to change that.
Trees are vital to Louisiana. They're part of our natural beauty, our national forests, and a huge chunk of our economy. While roughly every other crop in the state is seasonal, it takes decades from planting to harvest for a tree. That's a long time to survive things like droughts and hurricanes. Congresswoman Julia Letlow introduced H.R. 1011. Without getting too deep into the weeds, it basically makes it easier for forestry landowners to get disaster aid after losing trees.
Well, the way the government programs were to help that, the landowner would have to come up with 75% of the cost at the time that they're making an application. So Ms. Letlow has said that's not fair. We ought to reverse that. And in her bill, she has said, well, we want to put 75% up front. Let that landowner begin that restoration process.
Buck Vanderstein, executive director of the Louisiana Forestry Association, says a hurricane like Katrina, Laura, or Ida can wipe out years' worth of tree growth. And many times it's not an entire crop, but instead a percentage of trees here and there. That makes replanting a challenge.
It's very hard to go in there and go in like with a scalpel and cut out the part that's damaged and replant. Or correct the damage, clean up the damage on a larger tract of land when it didn't destroy the whole thing. And even if you do, or someone is able to go in for you and fix that one area, well, now you've got different age stands of timber on your place, and that makes it harder to harvest.
Jody Vadrine is the chair of the Forestry Committee for Louisiana Farm Bureau. With decades in the business, he's seen his share of disasters come through. In those years, he says emergency replanting money has usually amounted to pennies on the dollar, and due to all the red tape, sometimes isn't even worth it. He says while H.R. 1011 will help forestry landowners, he thinks there's a bigger win happening with the bill.
It's bringing people in Congress, it's making them aware that there is a problem in this industry and for these landowners in the state.
And Congresswoman Letlow's bill isn't the only thing on the horizon for forestry landowners.
And Senator Cassidy is looking at this situation a little differently. He is introducing a bill called the Forest Landowners Restoration Act. And his approach to this is you have a certain value of your trees before a storm hits. When a storm hits, that value drops precipitously. He's saying, let's find out what the value of that stand is before the disaster.
For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Josh Meeks.
Congresswoman Letlow's bill moved to the Senate on April 15th. Senator Cassidy's bill has been introduced but is still waiting on a committee hearing. Louisiana Farm Bureau is urging federal officials to investigate what it calls unfair foreign trade practices hurting the U.S. crawfish industry. In comments submitted to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, the group is asking for action under a Section 301 investigation, citing imported crawfish being sold below fair market value. Farm Bureau leaders say crawfish production supports thousands of jobs and it is a critical part of Louisiana's economy. The state produces more than 180 million pounds each year, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact. But producers say a surge of cheap imports, especially from China, is undercutting domestic prices. Data showed imported crawfish averaging just over $3 per pound in recent years, while U.S. producers report cost above $9 per pound. Louisiana Farm Bureau also points to a rise in frozen, whole-boiled imports and growing competition from other countries. They warn the price gap is unsustainable, with processors running below capacity and producers facing tough conditions. Now the organization is calling on federal leaders to enforce trade laws and level the playing field for American crawfish producers. With that in mind, let's take a look at some of the local crawfish prices from around the state. In Patterson, Down to Bayou Seafood sells crawfish for $3.25 a pound live and $6.99 a pound boiled. In Sulphur, check out Paradise Grill and Daiquiris, where they are $3.50 a pound live and $5.99 a pound boiled. In Winsboro, Clark's Crawdad Hole has them for $3.50 a pound live and $5 a pound boiled. Always make sure wherever you're getting them, you do two things. One, check those prices before you go and buy them. They change at least every week. And two, make sure you're getting Louisiana crawfish, which is why the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board reminds you to always ask before you eat. Most soybean fields across the state are a busy sight right now as planters are rolling out this year's crop. To have the best chance for maximum yield, growers need to get their seeds into the ground now. Craig Gautreaux explains why timing is of the essence.
Farmers across Louisiana are eager to get their soybean crops planted. While soybean prices have increased lately, increased input costs are creating difficult times for farmers. Maximizing yields requires timely planting.
The optimum planting for soybean in Louisiana mostly goes from late March to mid-April, so we are in a good window.
Soybean planting intentions forecasted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture have about 900,000 acres in Louisiana. But a mid-March weather event may cause that number to bump up.
There was a freeze on March 17th that hurt some corn. Actually, we're standing in a field that It was planted in corn, now going to be replanted in soybean. So that 900,000 acres could jump up.
Last year, prices for soybeans barely covered the cost of production. This year, prices are better and have seen a recent uptick.
You know, thankfully, the price has gone up in the last couple months for soybean. You know, it's hovering around $11.50 roughly. And not that long ago, it was under $11.
Increased input costs, especially for fuel, are taking up much of the increase seen in prices.
So it is better, but with the input prices so high, it's still hard to make a profit, but we are looking better than we were last year.
Some farmers have replaced some corn acres with soybeans because beans do not require nitrogen fertilizer like corn. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Ocher reporting.
Agricultural experts predict that U.S. soybean acreage will be up about 3%. Here in Louisiana, though, that's expected to be as high as 9%. Stay with us after the break as we continue our series of interviews with candidates for Louisiana's 5th Congressional District. We'll sit down with Jesse Fleener in a bit. Plus, crawfish ice cream, you heard that right. Stay with us.
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
Thank you for staying with us here on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. We continue our series of interviews with candidates running for the 5th Congressional District here in Louisiana. It's the largest row crop district in the country. Joining me now is Jesse Fleener, a Democrat from the Florida parishes. Jesse, thank you for joining us here on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Thanks for having me, Avery. Great to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. From what I understand, you're the only farmer who's in this race.
That's correct, from my understanding as well. I'm just a vegetable and dairy farmer down in Tangiboa Parish. I grow a little bit of everything you can grow under the sun, and I deliver whatever's fresh each week to my customers on the North Shore and the South Shore down there in New Orleans. And then more recently, ever since the pandemic there, we've gotten our dairy and creamery license, and now we are making hard cheeses, cheddar cheese, and feta, as well as a whole lot of Greek yogurt. So we're just doing all kinds of farming out there in LaRonja.
Oh, and I was hoping I'd get a sample here. But
next time, I'll bring you one. Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your family. Where'd you grow up and everything?
Yeah, so, we moved out there to LaRonja in 1984, the year I was born, so I always figured it was my farm anyway. My dad actually comes from Appalachia and met my mama, who's from the South Shore there, in 1968 at Loyola University. So, we've been farming out there for, my whole lifetime. And, it's a really good lifestyle. I raised my 3 kids out there with me. They can run across the yard. I studied political science at LSU there and graduated with a degree in international relations and then became a vegetable farmer. So life is long and curious, but we really enjoy it. You're never going to get to be a millionaire being a farmer, but it's honest work and it keeps you outside, keeps you healthy. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So political science, you had an interest in politics early on, I take it.
Yeah, I've always been interested in public policy and the role that government can play in our lives. I believe that government exists to decrease human suffering. And so that's why I'm in this race, is to figure out what it is that we need to move forward in this country. And, the main thing every time I meet with anybody is that we need to just figure out how to treat each other better in this country and take care of each other. Before we're Republicans or Democrats, we're always Americans first, and so we need to remember that in this country.
And this isn't the first time you've run for this seat.
No, actually, this is, I ran in 2018, the last time we were kind of in this pickle. And there had been several cycles at that time where it was only Republicans who were running to be my representative as a farmer in Tangiboa Parish. And I felt like we needed options in a democracy, and it's all about choice. And it should be a good competition of ideas. So I said, if that's still the case on the last day of qualifying, I'm going to go throw my hat in the ring down there, even though I'm just a vegetable farmer. And that's what I did. And so it's been a journey since then, the last 8 years. Getting to know people all up and down the 5th District. It's a beautiful piece of the state here, all the river parishes, all the way up to Lake Providence. And so we just got incredibly good human capital here, but the people have been somewhat neglected, and we just need to get back to actually taking care of the regular hardworking people of this state.
So you're going to be in a primary first. You got to get through that. But what are some of the reasons? What are some of the things that you stand for, reasons why you think people should vote for you, Jesse?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm just a working class, blue collar kind of guy. I'm a single dad who raises my 3 kids out there on the farm next to my parents. I have the adjacent 10-acre plot. And so I live the intergenerational life. And the thing is, the people out there in Loranger do tend to be slightly more conservative. But these are my neighbors and my friends, my mentors and my teachers. And I know how to talk to these people. I know that the people of this district and this state are good, hardworking people. And I feel like they've been, in some instances, led astray by some of the current administration's policies. And I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that if we were to really focus on what has been called America First, we wouldn't be starting more foreign wars and committing international war crimes and breaking up families. We need to be encouraging families to stay together. We need to be feeding our populace and making sure they have enough health care and social services. And so, we need to get back to the basics in this country. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here to speak not just to Democrats, but to Republicans as well and independents in a way that I think can convince people that we have more in common and more to get done together than our current posture of always kind of being against each other as one team or another. So my whole message is that I want to see this country get back to a place where we can have disagreements about public policy, whether it's tax policy or immigration, without vilifying each other, and to always remember to treat each other with dignity and respect.
Well, I'm glad that you came and treated us with your presence here today, Jesse.
I appreciate you, Avery.
He is Jesse Fleener. He is running for the 5th Congressional District as a Democrat. So, Kristen, we will continue this series with more interviews coming up in the following weeks.
Thanks so much, Avery. Well, new leadership is taking root at the University of Louisiana at Monroe. Dr. Carrie Castile, a South Louisiana native with deep ties to agriculture, stepped in as president last summer. As Tammy Arender reports, her rural roots may help shape a new direction for the university and the region.
With this view from the 6th floor of the University of Louisiana Monroe Library, you might not see the soybean and cotton fields, but Dr. Carrie Castile, the president of ULM, says she knows just how important agriculture and rural America are to this area and this university.
But growing up in a rural community and knowing the needs of these communities, and really getting to talk to individuals, have conversations, getting to know them, getting to know their kids. It was formative in my development.
Dr. Castile was born and raised in South Louisiana, and she started her career in cooperative extension and 4-H. She has spent time at the USDA Rural Development Office, as well as the University of Tennessee Institute of Ag, and she became the number 2 person under Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture, Mike Strain.
And I was an associate commissioner and science advisor, and really had an opportunity to see how agriculture plays a role in everything that we do, and really transforming it. Agriculture where, we're looking at genetics, we're looking at technology, we're looking at sensors, we're looking at how we use satellite imagery. And so it's not cow, sows, and plows anymore. You have to teach me that.
We will teach you.
Castile knows her impact comes from connecting with students, often visiting with them on campus, encouraging them to pursue their dreams, whether that be in agriculture or a totally different career path. Their success is her top priority.
You can see that they are on the precipice. They're destined for greatness. You can see it in their faces. You can see it and hear it in their questions.
Often attending ball games, Castile loves athletics and supports the Warhawks at every opportunity. She believes ULM is uniquely positioned to lead not just in sports, but academia, especially when it comes to combining nutrition, science, and agriculture.
So that intersection between all of our health sciences programs, pharmacy, and then how we bring in our agricultural community and what that looks like.
For Dr. Castile, this is about more than education. It's about impact.
At the end of the day, I'm competitive, and I want to be able to demonstrate how regional universities can work, how we can lead, and the impact that we can have.
I'm Tammy Arender for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
While in D.C., Dr. Castile also served as the president of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, the first woman to lead that agency. Still to come on TWILA, high honors for a master gardener in Ascension Parish. Plus, don't knock it till you tried it. We'll show you where crawfish ice cream is a big hit. As you saw on last week's show, the Soil and Water Conservation Districts are busy with a number of drainage projects across Louisiana, affecting the properties of both homeowners and farms. At a recent meeting of the Lower Delta District, they also took a little time to celebrate. Ora Jones of Ascension Parish was named Outstanding Cooperator for this year. Jones was recognized not only for her work on the farm, but also her involvement in educating the public about ag and rural issues that affect everyone. She told us the recognition was an honor and a surprise because it came from what she does naturally.
Overwhelmed. I was not expecting this. I just do what I do. I love gardening. I love teaching.
You may remember Jones from TWILA, both at her farm and her role as a teacher. She says gardening can be as easy as a single plant in a bucket. Kenneth Coleman, a retired conservationist with the NRCS, nominated Ms. Jones for the award. He says Jones deserves the award not because of what she's done, but because of what's ahead.
She don't just grow the fruit. She goes beyond that, teaching kids how to make preserves, how to just do it themselves, and so that they don't, because some kids just really think the milk comes out of the store. She goes beyond that point and teaching them where it comes from and how to grow their own vegetables.
Now, if you want to see more about Jones' operation, we'll link you to the story online at twilatv.org. Well, now time for this week's TWILA Boost, and you might want to be sitting down when you hear these words. Crawfish ice cream. No, it's not in Louisiana yet. Hopefully, we're not that bold. No, this is at the Red Circle Ice Cream in Houston, Texas. The shop's owner says she got the idea while at a family crawfish boil in 2019. It's made like any other ice cream, except it includes Cajun spices, garlic, and of course, crawfish. The whole thing is garnished with a single boiled crawfish on top, which owner Nikki No says can be used as an ice cream scoop once the tail is peeled. Now, the reviews are mixed, but surprisingly, it sells out fast. So what do you think? Would you give crawfish ice cream a try? I'm going to say it's a no for me, dog. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll take you to Louisiana's Governor's Mansion, where First Lady Sharon Landry is promoting agriculture. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories and much more on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you know exactly when we put out new content. For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.